Seelie are creatures you see from the very beginning of the game. The traveler quietly guides them to their Seelie courts, and perhaps you never even wondered what exactly these little creatures are, or where they might have came from. But the lore of Seelies can be traced all the way back before the existence of the first Archons themselves, humanity, and are one of the oldest creatures we know of in-game. Yeah, Seelie lore goes deep. And with all this mysterious history surrounding Seelie, let's answer the question of, what are Seelie? Floating around, chirping, and guiding the traveler to treasure, Seelies can be found everywhere in Teyvat, even in the extreme cold of Dragonspine. The Seelies have mutated to actually withstand the heat. Some have waited in their positions for potentially thousands of years, literally, as Seelies are, as you will come to find out, older than the Archons. But where did they come from? These little benign creatures are said to come from a great race that has long since seen its demise. It's said that thousands of years ago, these creatures actually possessed beautiful physical forms and possessed great wisdom. Not only that, but they also once strolled through grand halls in the cities of old. Now they sit and sing alone, waiting for the traveler to come back once more. That's right, traveler. Did that prick your ears up? Well, strap in, cause I'm not done yet. In the records of Ju Yun, it says that in the distant past, the ancestor of the Seelie met a traveler from afar, with whom they swore an oath of union, witnessed by the three sisters of the lunar palace. I'll get into the sisters in a moment, but a traveler from afar? That sounds awfully familiar. But who are these sisters of the lunar palace? Remember when I said the lore of Seelies goes deep? Yeah, this is that part. Basically, the moon in Genshin Impact is a corpse of an old god, and it also had two sisters who died that were in love with the stars, and the world was destroyed, and the ancestor of the Seelies was reduced into nothing but tiny creatures. Anyways, moving on. Oh, what's that? That didn't make any sense? Don't worry, you're not the only one. Allow me to explain. In the book Moonlit Bamboo Forest, it details a story about three sisters who existed as bright moons in the sky. 3 times a month, they would navigate the sky in a silver carriage, and if the rains were not properly passed along to the next sister, a terrible disaster would happen the very next day. This story is very reminiscent of the myth of Helios, the Greek sun god. Similarly, in this story, Helios also rode a chariot across the sky from east to west, which is where the sun came from. His son, Phaethon, begged his father so much to ride the chariot across the sky for just one single day, and his father warned him that this was no easy task. It took extreme skill and strength to perform such a feat. Nevertheless, Phaethon was determined to ride the chariot, so Helios eventually indulged his son and let Phaethon take the reins. Well, like many Greek stories, this ended in a tragedy. Phaethon set off in the chariot but was unable to control the horses. The power of the sun came far too close to the earth, spreading fire and scorching the earth. In order to stop an absolute cataclysm, the god of all gods in Greek mythology, Zeus, sent a lightning bolt to Phaethon, who crashed into the earth, and he was killed in the process. So, taking a lot of inspiration from this myth, these 3 moon sisters also rode a chariot across the sky, and their fatal flaw was that they were all in love with the stars. And naturally, only during the transfer of the sisters will the carriage pass the stars, only giving them a glimpse to witness their love. And after a while, it is said the 3 sisters of the night turned against one another, leading to the eternal parting by death. Only one of their pale corpses now remains, ever shedding its cold light. And of course, that one final sister is the one we have in the sky today. But what does this have to do with Seelies? Well, you see, Seelies are just as old as these moon sisters, or rather, they existed at the same time. So when these sisters betrayed one another, according to the rules, the disaster eventually ensued when they could no longer appropriate pass the reins. Well, while all this drama was happening with the madly in love sisters, so too was the ancestor of the Seelie in love with the traveler from far away. Yes, it was truly an age where love was in the air, and in the sky, and on the earth. Who exactly this traveler from afar was, we don't know. We can only presume that the concept of travelers occurring in the world of Teyvat is not uncommon. Historically, it has happened before, even so far before the existence of the Archons and the human beings. And while the world was being destroyed, we don't know by who or what. The Seelie and their lover fled into exile until the effects of a disaster finally caught up with them. Interestingly enough, it says their punishment was to be separated from each other for eternity, and to have their memories wiped without a trace. Now I want you to bear with me here, but who do you know that is a traveler, had their memory wiped and was separated? Sounds pretty interesting. I'm not implying that one of the travelers is a Seelie in this instance, but rather, it could be that Seelie are the other half of the travelers that was separated from them. Kind of spitballing here, but I've seen many theories that question whether or not someone like Paimon is perhaps a Seelie. I don't personally believe she is, but I do believe that our own traveler has a relationship very similar to how the ancestor of the Seelie had with the traveler. So you have to wonder, if this allegory holds true, who is our other half? Does that make Lumine or Aether a Seelie? Or the being that becomes the Seelie? The natural order of Teyvat is considered cyclical by many. In the item description of Prayers to Springtime, it says every mighty and ancient city must one day return to Earth, and at the end of this cycle the Earth shall be renewed. That's right, the entire Earth. So that implies the destruction of it. So the idea of the Earth being destroyed and travelers coming from another land into Teyvat is still a part of the quote-unquote cyclical nature of Teyvat. Just something to think about. Another question is the usage of the word punishment. The book says the Seelie and their lover were punished. This implies that someone judged them and gave them a punishment. So there was some sort of higher authority above the Lunar Sisters and Seelies, or rather the ancestor of the Seelie, but we don't know who. Perhaps it was Celestia, or maybe what would become the precursor to Celestia. But because of the separation of the Seelies from their lover, their forms are withered away and were reduced to nothing but the tiny floating orbs you see today. The reason they guide you to the treasure is that they are still reminiscing about the deep love they had for their lost one, and they are retracing their memories and seeking to gain solace back in their courts, which are reduced to nothing but the small little statues that you see hidden away all over Teyvat. I hope you liked this video, and I did not expect the lore of Seelies to be so deep and profound. I want to thank one of my fans in the Discord who recommended I make a video on this subject. I'm not even joking when I say I wrote the script almost immediately after being recommended this concept, as I liked it so much. So if you would like to get your suggestions done in a future video, that is a great way to do so. And if you have anything to add or feel like I missed anything important, please feel free to leave a comment. I read all of the comments. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you in the next one. But as always, thank you for watching.